When heaven hides in shadows, the divine paradox of the misjudged. Have you ever wondered why some people those shunned, feared, or even hated seem to carry a mysterious power? A depth that terrifies the world but speaks to something ancient and divine? I want you to sit with that question, because today we're not just telling stories. We're unearthing the paradoxes of fate, the mysteries of who God truly chooses. And it's not always the smiling saints. Sometimes it's the ones who walk alone in the dark. Let me take you into the first minute with this. Imagine standing barefoot in a storm, not because you were lost, but because you were sent. That's what it means to be a dark chosen one, misunderstood by men, but handpicked by God. I've walked with monks in the high Himalayas. I've spent nights in abandoned temples where the silence was so pure it screamed. And I've looked into the eyes of those the world called cursed, only to see a fire that could melt illusions. What I learned: God doesn't choose like men choose. Men look at the light. God often picks from the shadows. The first chosen one we speak of came from a place of total rejection. His name is not important, but his essence is. He was born into a family that feared him. As a child, he saw visions, angels with flaming eyes, whispers in the dark telling him secrets no child should know. He tried to share his visions, but they called him possessed. They took him to doctors, priests, even exorcists. But none understood. He wasn't broken. He was being initiated. An initiation often looks like madness to the uninitiated. You see, here's a deep truth. The world teaches us to fear what we don't understand. And those who carry divine codes, who are marked with spiritual fire, they often appear strange, even dangerous. But what if the strangeness is the disguise heaven uses to protect its treasures? Have you ever looked at someone society despised and felt something sacred in them, even if you couldn't explain it? The boy grew up in silence. He stopped speaking of the angels. He stopped trying to be understood. And that's when the fire inside him became a furnace. He began to walk with unseen beings. His prayers weren't words anymore. They were frequencies. He would sit for hours under trees, and animals stopped fearing him. Birds landed on his shoulders. The wind shifted when he exhaled. And still, men feared him. Until one day, a massive storm hit his village. People fled in terror. But he walked into the storm, eyes closed, arms open. And the winds stopped. People fell on their knees. "He's a prophet," they said. No, he was always chosen. They just finally saw. Now, let me ask you something. How many people in your life have you dismissed for being too intense, too weird, or too much? What if they were carrying a message not for your comfort, but for your awakening? The second chosen one was a woman. She lived in a city full of lights, but her soul was night. She was abused, lied to, used. She became a dancer in the back alleys. Not by choice, but by survival. And the world looked at her and said, "She's impure." But God saw her and said, "She's mine." You see, Her suffering had carved a hollow space in her spirit so deep even the stars could hide in it. While others prayed with words, she prayed with tears. While others built temples of stone, she built one inside her shattered heart. And that became her altar. One night, while walking home, she collapsed. No one stopped. People stepped over her. But in that moment, in the dirt and blood and rain, she whispered, "If you're real, find me." And in that moment, something did. A light not outside, but inside. It didn't fix her. It filled her. Not with answers, but with presence. A presence that rearranged her entire being. She began to see through things. Lies became clear. People's faces revealed their true emotions. She would touch someone's hand and feel their grief. And when she spoke, people cried. Not because of what she said, but because of what they felt. But society still hated her. They said, "She's pretending. She's dangerous. She's a witch." But I'll tell you what she was. She was chosen. Not despite her wounds, but because of them. Because here's a divine law: God hides in broken places. The third chosen one was a rebel. He was born into a religious family, but questioned everything. When others fasted, he feasted. When they prayed, he screamed at the sky. He was kicked out of every temple, every school. They said, "He's blasphemous." But God said, "He's brave." He wandered for years through deserts, forests, even war zones, not to escape, but to seek. And one day, in the middle of a battlefield, he found peace. Bullets flying overhead, bodies around him, and he just sat cross-legged, still, smiling. A soldier tried to shoot him, but the gun jammed. They captured him, tortured him, but he wouldn't speak. Not because he was afraid, but because he had heard something in the silence that no scream could express. When they released him, he didn't go back to religion. He didn't start a cult. He just walked and healed and listened. And people began to follow him, not because he preached, but because when you were near him, you felt like God was listening through his eyes. So I ask you, are you brave enough to question everything you were told? If it meant finding what's real. The fourth chosen one was a child born in darkness, literally. An orphan left in a cave in the mountains, owned by monks, raised in silence. He didn't speak until he was 12. But when he did, his first words were, "I remember." They asked, "Remember what?" He said, "The fire before time." And they knew this boy wasn't a student. He was a teacher. He would speak in riddles, laugh at funerals, cry during births. He saw beyond the veil, and it terrified people. But he wasn't afraid, because fear lives in time. And he didn't. When asked who his parents were, he said, "The wind and the void." Was he mad? Or was he free? The monks once asked him, "Why don't you leave the cave and teach the world?" He said, "Because the ones who need me will find me. And the rest wouldn't believe me even if I walked on stars." Divine logic, my friend, is not human logic. Are you willing to be misunderstood in order to be true? The fifth chosen one was you. Yes, you. You who have walked through fire the world never saw. You who were labeled, abandoned, underestimated. You who have visions in your dreams, who feel too much, love too hard, and break too easily. You who have carried questions no one could answer. You are not broken. You are becoming. But becoming hurts. It isolates. It strips away illusions. It tests you in silence. And maybe, just maybe, that's the sign you've been chosen. Not for fame, not for applause, but for something deeper, something holy. So now I ask you the question that could change your life. If God chose you, not the perfect version of you, but you in your mess, would you accept it? Would you stop hiding? Would you stop apologizing for the weight of your soul? Because maybe, just maybe, the darkness you carry isn't a curse. It's a calling. The shadow crown, why the most judged souls hold the deepest keys to heaven. The world has always worshipped the light, but rarely does it understand the night. We're taught to chase purity, perfection, and positivity. But what if I told you that some of heaven's most powerful warriors were forged in chaos, baptized in betrayal, and crowned in silence? The crown of the chosen is not always golden, it's often made of thorns. And only those who have bled on the inside know how to wear it without pride. You see, the shadow is not the absence of God. It is the place where God hides his most refined weapons. Those who have suffered, those who've been cast out, they are not the forsaken, they are the hidden. He's like seeds buried in the dark, seemingly forgotten, but destined to break the ground and become forests. I remember once meeting an old man in the desert of Rajasthan. He had no name, no home, no past he spoke of. But his eyes, they weren't human anymore. They held storms, ages, the weight of civilizations. I asked him, "What is the secret of the chosen ones?" He said, "They are not chosen because they are strong. They are chosen because they can carry what others run from. They are chosen because they don't need to be seen." That hit me deep, because in our culture of validation and visibility, we've forgotten the sacred power of being hidden. But God never forgets. He watches those who remain faithful in secret, who cry in silence, fight invisible battles, and still choose to bless others. Those are his generals, not the loud ones, the faithful shadows. Think about it. Moses was abandoned before he was anointed. Joseph was thrown into a pit by his own blood before he became a king's right hand. David was hunted like an animal before he stood on the throne. And Jesus, he was mocked, beaten, crucified, and yet he was the Son. What does that tell us? It tells us that the judgment of men is not the judgment of God. And those who are most violently rejected by this world are often the ones God is preparing for something eternal. But here's the question: do you have the patience to be misunderstood? Can you walk years in the wilderness with no applause, no confirmation, and still believe you're chosen? Because I need to tell you something: being chosen is not glamorous. It's not a Netflix prophecy or an Instagram quote. It's lonely. It's brutal. It's the feeling of carrying a fire inside you that no one else sees. Sometimes it's having dreams that make no sense to anyone but heaven. It's waking up at 3 a.m. with tears in your eyes and not knowing why. It's walking away from everything familiar, not because you're lost, but because you're being led. And the old you is too small to carry where you're going. You're not crazy. You're not cursed. You're being rewired. Your suffering is not pointless, it's preparation. Your delay is not denial, it's design. Now let me speak directly to your soul. Stop waiting for others to validate your anointing. Stop shrinking to make people comfortable. Stop hiding your hunger for truth, for power, for meaning. The reason you don't fit in is because you weren't made to. You were made to stand out, to stand apart. And yes, it comes with a cost. Loneliness, rejection, attacks. But it also comes with something else: access. Access to realms others will never touch. Because when you've walked through hell and didn't lose your soul, heaven trusts you. You become a gate, a bridge, a voice, and that is holy. That is the shadow crown. So now I leave you with this. What if your pain wasn't a punishment, but a prophecy? What if your tears were sacred ink, writing a story heaven has been waiting to tell through you? Can you carry that story, even if no one understands it yet? I dare you ask God tonight, not to bless your comfort, but to reveal your assignment. Ask Him to show you who you are when the masks fall. And when He does, don't run, don't shrink, don't doubt. Because the moment you say yes to that inner fire, the world may never understand you, but heaven will never forget you. The final fire: how to awaken the divine purpose hidden in your pain. What if your deepest wound is the doorway to your highest calling? What if the very thing you've been running from, your trauma, your silence, your failures, is actually the sacred material God uses to build your throne? You see, we've been taught to curse the fire. But what if the fire was never meant to destroy you? What if it was sent to forge you into something eternal, something unbreakable? I'm not talking about religious motivation here. I'm talking about divine transformation. Because chosen ones don't emerge from comfort, they are born through chaos. And those who carry the heaviest burdens often carry the holiest blueprints. I once sat with a young man in a jungle monastery in Thailand. He had nothing left. His family had disowned him. His friends mocked his visions. He was addicted, broken, and ready to end his life. But something in him, something ancient, wouldn't let him go. He said, "I feel like something is calling me, but I don't know how to answer." I told him, sometimes the call of God doesn't sound like a voice. Sometimes it sounds like desperation, like grief, like emptiness, because the soul doesn't awaken through pleasure. It awakens through need, through hunger, through the shattering of everything false. And from that brokenness, if you listen closely, you'll hear the whisper, "Come deeper." You see, your pain has a frequency, and that frequency is a magnet for divine power. The more honest you are with your wounds, the more permission you give heaven to use them. The world tells you to hide your scars, but I tell you the opposite. Show them, wear them like medals. Because every scar is proof that you survived something that was meant to kill you. And if you survived it, You didn't just endure, it means you were preserved. There is a difference. Endurance is human, but preservation, that's divine. It means God put a seal on your soul. A seal that said, "This one is mine." No matter what happens, they will not be destroyed. That's what it means to be chosen. But here's the part no one talks about. Being chosen doesn't mean you're better than others. It means you're responsible for more. You feel more. You sense more. You struggle more. Why? Because your cross was carved from a deeper tree. Your soul came here not just to survive, but to shift dimensions. You are not here to fit into the world. You are here to interrupt it. You carry code, spiritual technologies hidden inside your DNA. That's why you've always felt different. That's why you've always been attacked. The darkness recognized your light before you did, and it tried to stop you before you awakened. But it failed. You're still here, and you're still burning. Now, I want you to ask yourself something dangerous, something sacred. Ask, what if everything I lost was exactly what I needed to lose in order to find myself? Let the answer come slowly. Let it hurt. Because the truth is, the old you had to die for the real you to be born. The relationships that broke you, they were assignments. The betrayals, initiations. The isolation, a womb. And now, you're not who you were. You've died and come back. You've been through the fire and emerged with eyes that see into the soul of the world. That is your gift. Never apologize for it. Never water it down. The time has come for you to stop waiting. Stop waiting for permission. Stop waiting for perfect circumstances. Stop waiting to feel ready. You're not called to be ready. You're called to be obedient, obedient to the fire. Obedient to the voice that speaks when everyone else is silent. Obedient to the strange, divine nudges that say, step out, speak, heal, create. You don't need a stage. You are the stage. You don't need to be famous. You need to be faithful. Just start. Start where you are. With your pain, with your story, with your strange, beautiful soul. Because every step you take in authenticity becomes a light for someone else still trapped in the dark. And that, my beloved, is the legacy of the dark chosen ones. Misunderstood by the world, but chosen by God to carry messages that shake kingdoms, to walk paths no one else would dare, to hold the hands of those drowning in silence and whisper, "You're not alone. I made it through, and so will you." You are not here to be liked. You are here to liberate. You are not here to fit in. You are here to ignite. And if you accept that if you say yes to the fire, then everything you lost will turn into fuel. Everything you feared will become wisdom. And everything you hated about yourself will become holy. So now I ask you, one final time, are you willing to be chosen, even if it means walking alone? Are you willing to carry the fire, even if it burns everything you thought you were? Are you willing to become the storm that awakens others from their sleep? Because if the answer is yes, then heaven already knows your name. And the darkness? It fears you. You are the fire. You are the key. You are the hidden prophecy. Now go, walk in your mystery. And remember, the ones they judge the most are always the ones God trusted the deepest. The throne in the wilderness, how to live as a chosen one in a world that won't understand you. Now that you know who you are, what do you do with it? That's the question most chosen ones ask in secret. Once the veil is lifted, once the truth of your calling settles into your bones like a burning ember, life doesn't get easier, it gets clearer. You begin to see everything differently. People, patterns, pain, they all take on new meaning. But clarity is a double-edged sword. It brings profound peace, yes, but also profound loneliness. Because once you've seen what most refuse to see, you can't unsee it. And once you've felt the pulse of divine purpose in your own suffering, you can't go back to living small. You can't go back to pretending. You can't go back to sleep. But here's the secret I need to share with you now. The chosen ones never walk alone. You may feel alone. You may look around and see no one. But in the unseen realms there are legions. There are others like you, scattered across the earth, carriers of the fire, keepers of the truth. We are not a religion. We are not a trend. We are the remnant, the ones who remember, the ones who feel, the ones who've died 1,000 inner deaths and came back with wisdom in our wounds. And when you begin to walk in your fullness, you'll find us, not in the spotlight, but in the shadows, not in the temples, but in the trenches. And when you meet one of us, you'll know not by words, but by the echo in your soul, the recognition of a mirror that finally looks back. But until that moment comes, until the tribe finds you, you must walk the wilderness like a king with no crown. That's the test. To carry royalty in your spirit while wearing rags in the physical is to speak gold while being treated like dust, and to heal others while no one sees your own wounds. Can you do that? Can you keep walking even when there's no applause, no affirmation, no safety net? Because that's where the final transformation happens, in the wilderness, in the silence, in the unshared victories and the invisible scars. That's where the throne is built not by man, but by God. From this moment forward, you are no longer allowed to shrink. You will speak when the fire says speak. You will move when the wind says move. You will love when it makes no sense to love. And you will serve even when it costs you everything. That is your code. That is your crown. You will not wait for the world's permission, because the world didn't call you. God did, and that calling is irrevocable. So I leave you with one final meditation. Close your eyes, breathe, and ask yourself, not with your mind, but with your soul, what would I become if I stopped doubting the voice inside me? Let that question burn. Let it break something open. Let it resurrect you. Because this is not just a video. This is not just a message. This is a spiritual activation. You have heard the call. Now it's time to answer it.